So I'm already in Inkscape, and one important thing that I didn't mention is that you should place your image, the one that you've exported from Photoshop, make sure to save them inside your project, right? So I had previously created this project, a regular Unity project folder. That's important because you want to make sure that the image that you're going to import here in Inkscape can be found inside the Unity project by svg-in once you run the import process. Okay, I have already done that. Another important detail is that although the original art wasn't square, it was rectangular, I have expanded it so it becomes a perfect square, right? So I've just increased the canvas size so that the height matches the width. And that's important because the texture must be square for a RageSV and RageSpline afterwards to process it properly. Okay, so I just scaled it, left the black background. Afterwards, you just set this all up inside Unity. So I've just, one last step is to just check this resolution, 1152. Let's place it here in Documents Properties, right? Which right in File, Document Properties, or click the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-Shift-D. Then we can just put 1152. Yeah, 1152 here. This way you'll get the image to be placed precisely. Just click on File, Import. Let me just go to the right folder, just copy this one here, place it here, and there you go. So let's first import this one. When you do this, make sure to not select the embed option, okay, so that the svg-in parser can find it correctly inside your Unity project. So just make sure it's on link, click on OK. Let's now place it correctly. Just on the properties time here, just set this to 0, this one to 0 as well. Okay, don't touch the other properties, and it'll be done. To make things easier, let's open the layers panel. Let's work with layers, right? So already got this one, let's just name it as BG, and let's lock it. Okay, so it's just here for reference, and if you want to disable it, it's pretty easy. Let's add another one, let's call it outline. Click add. Okay, so now you can keep this locked as you've seen it and easily disable or enable it. So here in outline, and let's just select the Game Over Outline Art, click on Open. Once again, well, in this case it doesn't really matter because we're not gonna use this reference, this is gonna be traced, but let's use the link option. So just click on OK, do the same here on the X and Y attributes. Okay, so you see it's perfectly placed, and we can now disable the outline or the background. So very simple to just place things here. So next step is just tracing the outline into true vectors. So let's just select the bitmap graphics of the vector outlines previously traced, and let's go to the path trace bitmap option. You can also use shortcut Shift-Alt-B. Just click it, then the requester is going to show up. We have carried out many tasks, and the best option is to use the grace. Okay, so you don't have to spend lots of time tweaking the brightness cutoff, edge detection, all those single scan parameters. It's much easier to just go straight for the grace. The other options you can play with, but that's usually what I use. You could reduce this to like 3 scans. It's probably best so you don't have such a wide range of objects to delete later. There's a preview here, but usually you just click OK and go for it. Okay, so once it's done, yeah, there's one thing that I should have done. Let's just undo and click on remove background. Okay, so once it's done, you basically get some grade shapes here. Don't worry, that's exactly what you want. The idea is that you can select the best shape that represents the trace outline. Okay, so let me group here. Let's see which one ended up being better. So we have this one in the back. This one is just way too light, as you can see, so I just delete it. Just move this guy around here. So we have the original bitmap, which wasn't deleted, but this one is pretty faithful. So I just undo this move, hit Ctrl X, get rid of the original bitmap, and edit paste in place, which is Ctrl Alt V, so it gets back to its original position, and I want it to be on black. So now we have the outline in vectors, and the background is still bitmap, and you can already see right inside here in Inkscape that I can zoom in as much as I want, and all this pixelation that you guys are seeing here won't happen when inside Unity, because Unity automatically applies linear filtering, so it's gonna blur it perfectly for us. Okay. Recommended step before moving on is to double click the shape and zoom in. I'm using Control mouse wheel up. Okay, you can also use plus or minus in your keyboard to zoom in and zoom out, middle mouse button to pan around. Okay, so there are many things you can improve or clean up. So usually it's not recommended to have nearby points like those. They tend to segment too much. So you can just select it, delete, and Inkscape automatically tries to preserve the shape. Okay, so when the angle doesn't change much along 2 points, it's recommended that you remove them. Sometimes it doesn't work as well as you saw here, but you can also check the tangents if you want. Just enable the toggle to show the tangents, so if you want to play with them, you can do it right here before even getting to Unity, right? So I'm just making sure that we have mostly needed points here, and clean up a bit. You know, you can be as picky as you want, or move along as fast as you need to. It's really a matter of how much time you have, and related to the quality, the final quality that you want to achieve. Okay, as usual in games development, no big news here. So you can just double click to the point and delete, clean up all the points which are too near one to the other. You can just go around and see if everything is relatively okay, right? So I've used some settings here in terms of the quantity of points that I'll show you guys. When you go to the trace bitmap options, you have some settings for smooth corners and optimized paths. I use 1 for smooth corners and 0.2 for optimized paths, and tends to give me really good results. One important thing is to not aim for the lowest possible amount of points, because when that happens you will lose the points in the extreme corners, and you end up having to subdivide the whole curve when you get inside Unity. What seems like you're saving up polygons, in fact, is gonna end up resulting in more polygons when you get inside Unity. So these values tend to give you good results. I recommend you to start with them and then do some cleaning up. You know, nothing that takes the whole day or anything, but just removing some redundant points and this kind of thing. It really does help. Okay, so once that's done, the next thing that I really recommend, especially for shapes like those which have many compound shapes. What are compound shapes? Compound shapes are nothing but these hollow shapes, okay? The thing that makes the bitmap texture show up behind it, the hollow shapes. So they are already being processed by SVG in latest versions using our create holes option. Let me show you. Go to settings and you have the create holes option, okay? But it's very important that you don't abuse it in terms of having too many nested holes like those, because it really ruins the triangulation algorithm when you have two long stripes of polygons and using narrow splits to emulate the holes. So it's really wise to slice these shapes up. And to do that, we're gonna create a grid which we're gonna use to slice this outline. So let's do it. The first step is to create a small rectangle, just a regular box or square. Make it roughly the size of the area that you want to split up. Usually, if you think about a width of 4 squares and 3 squares of height in your grid, roughly that will be enough. Okay, so just clear up the fill. The outline doesn't really matter. Let's check the strokes. I want to make sure the width is not very large. We're going to use something like 0.1. It's going to be enough to slice it up and not affect the visual quality of the resulting shapes, which is what we want. So since we're not in Illustrator, which has a more explicit grid creator option in its toolbox, I'm gonna get here to path, object to path. Okay, so it actually gets the control points. Now I'm going to get to path effect editor, and the fact we want the construct grid. Here in the construct grid, it's gonna give you a size. Like I said, it can be bigger, you can have more squares, doesn't really matter. You can just scale it after the fact. Okay, so just zoom out a bit so you can see what I have created, and I just place it over our outline. Scale it a bit. There's no need for it to be precisely square or anything. Just going after a quick way to slice those guys using a grid. What you have to do now is just go to path, once again object to path, and now you want to outline the strokes. Let's use stroke to path. Now when you select the edit path by nodes option, you'll see that we have, if you zoom in real close like I'm doing here, you can see that it actually created the points. Okay, so it's now a proper path which we can use to subtract from this outline. So let's do this. Just keep it selected, select the outline compound shape or compound group, go to path and hit difference. So if you look real close now, you can see that it has sliced those shapes. After you do that, you have many advantages when you bring it over to Unity. First, your shapes are going to be faster, much faster to edit, because they're going to be comprised of less points. So if I come to path and click on break apart or hit Ctrl+Shift+G, you see that it's actually made of multiple separate parts. Of course, we don't want that. It's just to show you how it's going to show up inside Unity once imported. So let's do it. I'll simply enable the BG layer. Now I'm going to save as and go to the right folder. I've saved this one as tutorial. I have other versions saved, of course. So just click on save and let's go straight to Unity. I already have an empty game object here in this pre-created scene, so just drag it over here. Create holes is enabled. I'll just lower the density a little bit. We can increase it afterwards, just make things more easy to handle here in the scene editor. Just click import. So you can see it brought everything at once. What it did was it found the texture because it was the same name which referenced it in the SVG file is found in a texture. It could be anywhere inside your project. It just goes after the name and then associates and scales it just properly according to that image placed in your Inkscape art. Okay, and of course it just imports the other shapes as expected. So now that the art is properly imported, what I have to do is just set a nice background. Well, in our case it could be just black. And let's just make sure it's looking okay, the anti-aliasing here. If we need more density, or if you want it more sharp or more blurry, you can just come here and just add Rage Group, and it will tweak. If you want to have more anti-aliasing, you could do like 2 and see, well, it's too blurry. I'm probably more happy with something around 1, or maybe a bit sharper than 1. It's up to you to decide. If you want a better density, you can see here the amount of draw calls and the amount of triangles, pretty low level right now. Okay, so you can set it as you want, and then you just disable the tweak. You may remove. It won't help really to remove if you're gonna add edge tune here, because edge tune depends on Rage Group, but in our case we don't really need or want this square shape to be tuned by edge tune. Actually, you can just have it density 1, so it doesn't waste any polygons and triangles. And what we really want is to add edge tune here, so let's do it. RageTools, edge tune. So you may try guessing. Well, in my case, I just increase this to something like 8. It's up to you how many times you're going to subdivide, because that's going to imply the maximum number of triangles they may reach once your scene is running on your target device. Okay, so let's just click on initialize. Nothing else will really matter. Just click live, and then I just split the game window here. Okay, so it's easier for you to see that as I increase the size of the final viewport, the amount of triangles increase accordingly. If I reduce it, you can see that it also reduces as well. Okay, so in practice, if you're on a slower device like an iPhone 3GS, you're going to have less triangles, okay, automatically. For mobile devices, the trick is to use the start only toggle, so it doesn't keep dragging processor just to check the resolution and all that. Just check it for the fixed resolution once, and it's done. If you're publishing, for instance, for a multiple resolution device like the PC and Mac, you probably want to have this live, and they also have better processors, so it's usually alright. So suppose like this, I just noticed that there's a missing part in the outline. What should I do? Well, very simple. Instead of going back to your bitmap graphics program and editing and re-importing and everything, we can just make the shape right inside Unity with the project all done. So let's just disable edge tune so it doesn't get in the way. Let's just go after the circle prefab from RageSuite. Let's drop it here, somewhere near the place we want to add our art. It's obviously way, I just rotated a bit here in the canvas. Okay, so it does show up where it should. Okay, and let's get back to the flat view, and let's remove the outline. The fill is going to be black, so let's quickly adjust these points. If handles get in the way, just hit H on your keyboard. You can get moving the points around. If you want to check the outline below, you can just reduce the alpha a bit so you can see it as you're editing the points. Okay, then just re-enable the tangents so I can better see what I'm doing here. Okay, just make this curvy, bring this over here, a bit more tangents here maybe. This hue, I can hit N so I can have a kind of a beak, okay, or corner point as it's usually called. Just select the point and click N in your keyboard to do it. Alright, so it's really good. Now let's get the opacity back to what it should, and let's tweak the anti-aliasing so it looks approximately the same of the other shapes. Okay. Alright, so now that everything's done, what you have to do is just move this with an outline. Of course, this is not auto-added to Rage Group. You can see there are 53 members, so let's click Update, and it moves up to 54. So it's now considering this new shape that we have added. Okay, so you can now click on Initialize, click Live, hit Play, and it's working just as expected, right? So it's edge tuning this new shape as well. You can see here that it's adding segments or removing them as needed. Okay, so that was a quick look on how to convert your bitmap graphics or to create your original bitmap graphics with enhanced vectors, so you get always crisp outlines. These could be color outlines, these could use gradients, everything that you got available using RageSuite. You can do it using Inkscape or Illustrator or whatever is your preferred vector editing program. Okay, so I hope you find it useful and that you can apply it in your next cutscenes, in your next game intro screens, or even animations. Hope you have enjoyed it. See you in the next video. Bye bye.